Welcome back to my little kitchen here in Lecce in the south of Italy. My name's Francesco, and as you may know, I'm Sicilian despite the British accent, and today I'm going to make one of the most iconic Sicilian pasta dishes, and that is Busiate al Pesto Trapanese. Pesto Trapanese is wonderful. It's made using fresh tomato with basil, garlic, almonds, and a little bit of pecorino and good extra virgin olive oil. These, cold, blended together with some hot pasta on a hot summer's day, are just absolutely a wonderful thing. The pasta itself, the Busiate, is so called because it was traditionally made using a dried blade of grass which was called a buso. Of course, you're not going to be able to find one of those nowadays, so what we're going to do is use a bamboo skewer, which is absolutely fine, and the pasta itself is made using just semola rimacinata, which is a hard-grained durum wheat flour, and water. So you can't get more basic than that. I'm going to get busy now and make the pasta so that it has time to dry before we cook. So I hope you enjoy the recipe. If you do, please give me a thumbs up, do subscribe to the channel, and do leave a comment below. Come back and follow me for more. Let's cook. For today's recipe, we are going to need, for the pasta, some hard durum wheat flour or semola rimacinata, cherry tomatoes, basil, almonds, a good extra virgin olive oil, pecorino, and garlic. Southern Italian pasta is probably the easiest to make of all because all that you need is your flour and some water. This is hard durum wheat flour or semola rimacinata, and we're using about 100 grams per person. Simply make a well in your flour. You can also do this in a bowl if you prefer. Add some water and begin bringing in the flour from the sides until it starts to absorb the water and thicken. Once that begins to happen, bring more water in, and then when you know it's not going to spill, you can start to work it together by hand. Add a little bit more water at a time until you get to the right consistency. You want a nice firm dough. By adding just a little water at a time, you don't run the risk of your dough becoming too soft. Of course, you could always add more flour, but this is just the easiest way to do it. See how it's all coming up cleanly from the board? That's what you want. At that point, you can begin to knead it, like so. Just pressing with the heel of your hand, give it a half turn and then press from the other direction. You need to do this for a good 10 or 15 minutes. Keep working your dough until it's nice and smooth like this. Then cover it and let it rest for 20 to 30 minutes, after which it will be much softer. See how this is nice and pliable now? Now it's easily workable. Split it into smaller pieces to make it easier to work with. Cover the part that you're not going to use so it doesn't dry out, and then the fun begins. What you need to do is to roll it into a ball and then using a rolling pin, flatten it out just a little bit, and then you can cut it into strips like this, and this is going to make it easier to roll the dough out into long strings, like so. If you find that your strings are flattening out and won't roll nicely on the board, that's because you have excess flour on there. You want to make sure to have no flour on the board at all when you're doing this. Next, cut your pasta into pieces about the length of your finger. Then take a bamboo skewer and at an angle of 45 degrees roll it across the pasta like so. Watch again. Let's do one more. Lay your strip of dough down at an angle, take your skewer and then roll it across gently like so. Don't press too hard and it should come off as a nice twist of pasta like this. It's going to take some practice, but it really isn't that difficult. If you find that your pasta is sticking to the skewer, what you need to do is to lightly flour the skewer so that the pasta slides off. And here, about 20 minutes later, 2 portions of wonderful Busiate. Now we can lay that out to dry. It's going to take about an hour to dry, and in the meantime we'll prepare the pesto. For this we're going to need some cherry or date tomatoes, simply cut in half, and a clove of garlic. We're cutting the tomatoes so that they'll blend more easily and won't just burst when we put them in the mixer. So in we go with the tomatoes, 1 handful of tomatoes per person. Then a small handful of almonds, don't overdo it, it's not going to taste better because you add more. A clove of garlic per person, a small handful of basil per person, a pinch of salt, and a little bit of freshly ground pepper. We're then going to add some of our best extra virgin olive oil. This is about 2 tablespoons. And then whiz everything together with the blender, but not too finely. It's nice if the almonds still have a bit of crunch to them. Just a couple of times. Like so. We're then going to bring up our water to a vigorous boil, add a good pinch of salt, and then go in with the pasta. How long is it going to cook? Well, first of all, we're going to let it cook until it floats up to the surface. In the meantime, we can add a little bit of Pecorino cheese to the pesto. This isn't essential, but I think it helps to absorb any excess juices from the tomatoes. Getting back to the pasta, the thing with fresh pasta is you don't want to cook it until it's al dente. What you have to do is to taste it. Your pasta is good when it doesn't taste of raw flour. Then you need to drain your pasta and then add your pesto. As you can see, this was just 2 tablespoons, so I had plenty more left over, and this is more than enough to dress your pasta nicely. And now you're ready to serve. This is one of my favorite pasta dishes for a hot summer's day. Hot pasta and cold sauce. You can't beat that. Add just a light sprinkle of pecorino. You don't want to overpower it with the cheese. The most important flavors are the almonds and the garlic and the tomato, of course. Add some freshly ground black pepper, a nice basil leaf as a garnish, last few drops of your good extra virgin olive oil, and now you're ready to enjoy. Buon appetito!